The cleaning crew at Fortuna Restaurant arrived at 10:47 p.m. They came twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, vacuumed the dining room, wiped down the tables, emptied the trash, scrubbed the kitchen, left by midnight. The restaurant had been a high-end Italian place once. Now it was something else. A place where conversations didn't appear in police records, where deals were made that couldn't be discussed in daylight, where men with scarred knuckles and dead eyes conducted business over wine that cost more than monthly rent. The mafia ran the restaurant. Everyone knew it. The health inspector knew it. The cops knew it. The business license office knew it. But nobody said anything because saying anything meant consequences. The cleaning crew knew it too. Sarah had been cleaning Fortuna for 6 years. She was 47 years old, Puerto Rican, a widow. Her husband had died when Sarah was 35, leaving her with 2 kids, no savings, and a desperate need for employment that didn't ask too many questions about work history or criminal records. The cleaning job paid cash, no taxes, no paperwork, $1,300 a week for 20 hours of work. It was more than she could make anywhere else in Newark. The price was invisibility. If this is your first time on the channel, kindly like the video and subscribe for more interesting stories. And if you're watching without subscribing or leaving a comment, please show some love. It really helps the channel. Sarah cleaned the restaurant like a ghost. She moved through the dining room while men conducted business, and she became part of the infrastructure, like the walls or the carpet. She heard conversations about shipments and territory disputes and hits that were being planned. She heard names of people who were going to disappear. She never repeated what she heard. She never looked anyone in the eye. She never acknowledged that she understood what they were discussing. Sarah was the invisible woman, and invisibility was worth $1,300 a week. But invisibility had a cost. Sarah's daughter, Carmen, was 19 years old. She was brilliant, full scholarship to Rutgers, first in her family to go to college, studying criminal justice because she wanted to be an FBI agent. She wanted to help people. She wanted to fight systems that trapped people in poverty and crime. She had no idea her mother was cleaning for the mafia. "Mom, I got the internship," Carmen said one morning, coming into the kitchen where Sarah was making coffee before her shift at the diner. Sarah worked 2 jobs, the cleaning job at night, a diner job during the day. 70 hours a week, but the kids would get out. The kids would escape. "The FBI internship?" Sarah asked. "The FBI internship," Carmen confirmed. "I start next month. It's in Newark. I'm going to be doing real investigative work. They're letting me work on organized crime cases." Sarah felt her heart stop. She knew, in the way that mothers know things, that this was going to be a problem. "That's wonderful," Sarah said. And it was true. It was wonderful. It was also potentially dangerous. "Mom, I want to ask you something," Carmen said, sitting down at the kitchen table. "I've been reviewing case files, and there's this restaurant, Fortuna. The FBI has been trying to build a case against the people who run it for years. They know it's a mob operation, but they can't get anyone to cooperate. They can't get anyone to testify. They have surveillance, but they need on-the-ground intelligence." Sarah's hands were shaking. She set down her coffee cup. "Do you know anything about the restaurant? Anything at all? They're asking interns to reach out to anyone we know who might have information, anyone who works there, anyone who's seen something." "I don't know anyone who works at Fortuna," lied Sarah. Her daughter was asking her to betray the men who paid her rent. "Are you sure?" Carmen pressed. "Because they're saying anyone with any information, no matter how small, could be the key to bringing down the entire Newark operation." "I'm sure," Sarah said. Carmen looked at her mother carefully. Sarah could see the intelligence in her daughter's eyes. She could see Carmen trying to decide whether to push further or let it go. "Okay," finally Carmen said. "But if you hear anything at all, you can call the field office. They have a tip line, Anonymous, no names. They protect their sources. Sarah nodded and said nothing. Sarah spent the next week in agony. She worked at the diner during the day, tired and distracted. She worked at Fortuna at night, cleaning and listening and pretending she wasn't hearing conversations about murders and money laundering and the systematic destruction of neighborhoods. On Friday night, she was cleaning the main dining room when the mafia boss came in. His name was Vincent Carbone, 62 years old, scarred face, one dead eye from a gunshot wound 30 years ago. He'd killed at least 17 people that law enforcement could prove, probably more. He owned the restaurant. He owned half the businesses in Newark. He owned the police captain. He owned the city council member who handled zoning. He was untouchable. Vincent sat at his table, the same table he always sat at, in the corner, and he called Sarah over. Sarah's heart was pounding. Bosses didn't talk to the cleaning crew. The cleaning crew was invisible. Invisible people didn't get called over. "Yes?" Sarah said, standing across from him with her mop and rag. "You've been cleaning here a long time," Vincent said. He had an accent that came and went depending on his mood. 6 years, Sarah said. "You speak English good," Vincent said. "You understand what you hear?" Sarah knew this was a test of her loyalty, a test of her understanding that what she heard in this restaurant needed to stay in this restaurant. "I don't hear anything," Sarah said. "I'm cleaning. I don't listen." "That's good," Vincent said, "because there are people who listen, people who work for the federal government who would give a lot to know what happens in this restaurant. They would promise protection. They would promise money. They would promise that your family would be safe." He leaned forward. "I want you to understand something," Vincent continued. "If I found out you were talking to those people, if I found out you were cooperating with the FBI, your daughter would not graduate from Rutgers. Your son would not graduate from high school. You would not live to see either of them graduate. Do you understand?" Sarah understood. "I understand," she said. "Say it," Vincent commanded. "Say the words." "I understand that if I talk to the FBI, you will kill my children," Sarah said. The words tasted like poison. Vincent smiled. "Good," he said. "Now go clean the kitchen." Sarah drove home at 1:15 a.m. in her 2008 Honda Civic. She had $1,300 in cash in an envelope in her purse, money she would give to Carmen for her internship expenses, money that came from cleaning a restaurant where a man had just threatened to kill her children. She pulled into her parking lot and sat in the car with the engine off. The choice was binary. There was no third option. Option 1, Sarah continued cleaning for the mafia. She said nothing to Carmen. She lied to the FBI if they contacted her. She kept her daughter safe through silence and complicity. Option 2, Sarah went to the FBI. She told them what she'd heard. She helped them build a case against Vincent Carbone. And she accepted that her children might die as a result. There was no option where everyone was safe. There was no option where Sarah got to be innocent. Sarah got out of the car and went upstairs to her apartment. Carmen was still awake. She was at the kitchen table, studying case files on her laptop. Sarah sat down across from her daughter. "I need to tell you something," Sarah said. Carmen closed her laptop. "I've been cleaning at Fortuna Restaurant for 6 years. It's where I've been working at night. That's how we've afforded your school. That's how I've paid for your brother's tutoring. That's where my money comes from." Carmen's expression didn't change, but Sarah could see the understanding dawning in her daughter's eyes. "The boss," Sarah continued, "knows about your internship. He knows you want to work for the FBI. He just threatened to kill you if I cooperate with them." "We need to go to the police," Carmen said. "The police work for him. The police work for him. If we go to the police, he'll know immediately." "Then we go to the FBI. We tell them what he said."
"If we do that," Sarah said, "he'll kill you." The words hung in the air between them. Carmen sat back down. "He's going to kill me anyway," Carmen said quietly. "If I become an FBI agent, if I start building cases against his organization, he's going to see me as a threat. He's going to view me as someone who betrayed him by extension of being his daughter." Sarah didn't respond because Carmen was right. "So the question isn't whether I'm in danger. The question is what I do with the danger I'm already in." Carmen opened her laptop again. "I'm calling the tip line," she said. "I'm telling them everything you've heard, everything Vincent said, everything you know about his operation, and then we're going to let the FBI protect us." "They can't protect us," Sarah said. "Maybe not," Carmen agreed, "but at least we'll be free." 3 days later, Sarah got a call. It was from an FBI agent named Morrison. He asked if Sarah would meet with him, somewhere safe, somewhere secret, somewhere Vincent Carbone would never know about. Sarah said yes. She met him at a federal building downtown. They sat in a secure room with 2 other agents. They recorded everything Sarah said. They asked questions about specific shipments she'd heard discussed, specific crimes she'd heard being planned, specific names of people in Vincent's organization. Sarah told them everything. She described the money laundering operation, the drug distribution network, the hits that had been ordered, the corruption of the Newark Police Department, everything she'd heard while cleaning, while being invisible. It took 5 hours. When she was done, Agent Morrison leaned back in his chair. "This is good," he said. "This is very good. But I need you to understand something. Once you testify, once this becomes public, Vincent Carbone will know it was you. He will assume it was you, and he will try to kill you." "I know," Sarah said. "We can put you in witness protection, you and your daughter. New names, new city, new lives." "And my son?" asked Sarah. "We can protect your son too, all 3 of you, but you need to understand this means leaving Newark, leaving your homes, leaving your friends, becoming someone else." Sarah thought about 6 years of invisibility, 6 years of cleaning crime scenes she never reported, 6 years of hearing about murders and doing nothing, 6 years of her silence enabling violence. "When do I have to decide?" asked Sarah. "Now," Morrison said. "We're moving against Carbone in 72 hours. We have enough evidence. You can be part of that, or you can disappear, but there is no middle ground."
She went to work that night at Fortuna. She cleaned the tables. She vacuumed the dining room. She mopped the kitchen floor. She moved like a ghost through the restaurant one last time. At 11:47 p.m., Vincent Carbone came in. He wasn't alone. He had 4 men with him. They sat at his table and watched Sarah clean, not looking away, just watching. Sarah understood. He knew. She finished mopping the kitchen and came back into the dining room. Vincent was staring at her. "Sit," he said. Sarah sat. "You went to the FBI," Vincent said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Sarah said. Vincent leaned back in his chair. One of his men put a gun on the table, casual as a napkin, a message, a threat, a promise. "Your daughter is 19 years old," Vincent said. "Smart girl. She has a future. She could go to law school. She could become a judge. She could have anything she wants. But now she's going to spend her life looking over her shoulder, because I will find her, eventually. I will find her, and I will remind her of the choice her mother made." Sarah's hands were steady. "Why did you do it?" Vincent asked. Sarah stood up slowly. She didn't make any sudden movements. She reached down and picked up her cleaning rag from the bucket of soapy water. She was still holding it in her hand. "Because," Sarah said, "I am still human." She dropped the rag. The cloth fell to the floor with a wet slap that echoed in the quiet restaurant. "I've spent 6 years cleaning in this place, 6 years hearing about people you've hurt, 6 years understanding that my silence was helping you destroy lives, 6 years becoming invisible because invisibility was easier than confrontation." Vincent's face was hard. "But I'm not invisible," Sarah said. "I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a person who makes choices, and I chose to stop being invisible. I chose to tell the truth. I chose to be human again, instead of being a tool you used." She looked at him directly, eye contact, no fear visible on her face, though her heart was breaking with it. "You're going to kill me," Sarah said, "or my daughter, or both of us, but you're not going to silence me first. You're not going to make me disappear, because I'm going to keep speaking the truth until the day you put me in the ground." The man with the gun looked at Vincent. Vincent raised his hand slightly, the message, "Not yet." "Brave, your daughter gets that from you." "She gets the ability to stand up," Sarah said, "from watching her mother finally learn how to do it." Vincent stood up. "Goodbye, Sarah," he said. He walked out of the restaurant. The 4 men followed him. Sarah stood alone in the empty dining room, still wet from the mop water, her hands shaking. She'd just said goodbye to 6 years of financial security. She'd just said goodbye to any chance of living a normal life. She'd made herself a target. But she was human again. The FBI moved against Vincent Carbone 72 hours later. They arrested him at his home at dawn, 30 agents, tactical gear, a full operation designed to capture someone the government had been tracking for 40 years. Vincent didn't resist. He was led out of his house in handcuffs, and the news cameras caught it. The headlines screamed about the takedown of a major crime boss. The stories mentioned cooperating witnesses. The articles detailed the years of surveillance and the final break in the case. None of them mentioned Sarah by name. She was protected, anonymous, invisible in a different way now. But Vincent knew. Everyone in his organization knew. Sarah became a target not because she was famous, but because she was the first person who had ever broken the code of silence. She was the person who had looked Vincent Carbone in the eye and said no. Sarah, Carmen, and her brother Marcus went into witness protection 4 days later. New names, new city, new lives in a place where nobody knew who they were or what they'd done. Sarah took a job at a hospital, not cleaning anymore, working as a nurse's aide, building a new career, rebuilding her life. Carmen continued her FBI internship from her new location. She was assigned to a different field office, one far away from Newark. She was safe, sort of, always looking over her shoulder, sort of, but alive. Marcus finished high school at a new school where nobody knew about his mother's testimony. He made friends. He had a normal teenage experience. They were alive. They were also ghosts. They couldn't go home. They couldn't see their old friends. They couldn't live the lives they'd planned. The cost of being human was steep. 3 months later, Vincent Carbone went to trial. Sarah testified from a secure location via video. She couldn't be in the courtroom because Vincent's men had made multiple threats, but she testified. She told the entire court everything she heard while cleaning, every name, every crime, every crime. The prosecutor used her testimony to build a case so strong that Vincent's defense crumbled. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on 15 counts: murder, money laundering, extortion, conspiracy, RICO violations. Vincent Carbone was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He was 62 years old. He would die in prison. Because a woman who cleaned tables had decided she was still human. 6 months after Vincent's conviction, Sarah got a letter. No return address, handwritten, posted from Newark. She knew what it meant before she opened it. She opened it anyway. The letter was from one of Vincent's men, one of the 4 men who'd sat at the table while Vincent threatened her. "You made a mistake," the letter said. "Vincent Carbone may be in prison, but his organization is still here. We are still here, and we remember. We will remember until we find you. We will find you, Sarah, and when we do, your daughter will watch us make you pay for what you did." Sarah showed the letter to the FBI agent assigned to protect her. "Standard intimidation," the agent said. "They do this with all protected witnesses. The overwhelming majority never follow through. They're trying to make you scared, trying to make you regret your decision." "Are they succeeding?" Sarah asked. The agent considered the question honestly. "Yes," he said. "But are you going to stop being brave because they're scared of you?" Sarah thought about that. "No," she said, "I'm not." 1 year later, Sarah got a job at a different hospital. Better pay, better benefits, working as a full nurse instead of just an aide. She was rebuilding a career. She was building something real. Carmen graduated from her internship. She was offered a permanent position at the FBI field office. She took it. She was going to fight organized crime for the rest of her career. She was going to spend her life doing what her mother had just taught her to do. Stand up against corruption, even when it meant everything. Marcus graduated from high school. He got a scholarship to a state university. He was going to study engineering. He was going to build things instead of being built on. The family was alive. They were scattered across the country. They couldn't live together without putting each other at risk, but they were alive. They were free. 2 years after testifying, Sarah got another letter, this time from Vincent Carbone himself. "I've had a lot of time to think in here," the letter said. "A lot of time to understand what I did, what I was. You showed me that day in the restaurant that there's a choice. You chose humanity. You chose truth. I chose violence. I chose invisibility through fear instead of through work. You were right. I wasn't human anymore. You reminded me what that looks like. I won't ask your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that every day I look at the life I lost because of the choices I made. You didn't make me this way. You just showed me clearly what I had become. Thank you for that." Sarah showed the letter to Carmen. "Do you think he means it?" Carmen asked. "I don't know," Sarah said, "but I know I meant what I said. I'm still human. That matters more than whether he is." 5 years after Sarah's testimony, the FBI opened investigations into 37 different criminal operations in Newark. 37 different crime families that Vincent Carbone's imprisonment had exposed as vulnerable. 37 different crime families that needed new leadership and quickly fractured under that pressure. The Newark underworld collapsed. Not because of one big operation, but because of the ripple effect of one woman deciding to stop being invisible. Sarah's testimony had broken the code of silence. Once the wall cracked, other people started talking. Other people started cooperating. The protective shield that organized crime built, silence and loyalty and fear, began to fail because one woman had proven it could be resisted. Sarah never returned to Newark. She built a life in a new city. She worked at the hospital. She made friends. She had a quiet, ordinary existence that was the opposite of her life before. But every time she saw a news story about another major organized crime arrest, she understood. This was her legacy. This was what happened when you decided to be human. 10 years after the trial, Sarah was working a night shift at the hospital. She was cleaning rooms, not out of necessity, but because the hospital had short-staffed the night shift and she'd volunteered to help. She was mopping a floor when a man came in through the emergency entrance, shot, bleeding, unconscious. The paramedics brought him in with urgent vitals. Sarah moved to help, and then she saw his face. It was one of Vincent Carbone's men, one of the men who'd sent her letters threatening her daughter, one of the men who'd kept the organization running after Vincent went to prison. He was going to die without the help she could provide. The doctors and nurses rushed past. Sarah stood with her mop, understanding the moment. She could let him die, justice in a way, revenge in another way. Or she could be human. Sarah dropped her mop. She ran to the emergency room. "I'm trained in emergent aid," she told the doctor. "Let me help." She worked for 3 hours to keep that man alive. He survived. When he woke up in the recovery room, Sarah was the first person he saw. Recognition flashed across his face. "You saved me," he said. "Yes," Sarah said. "Why?" he asked. "Because," Sarah said, "I'm still human." The man cried. Not because he'd been saved, but because someone he'd wanted to kill had saved his life, because someone he'd tried to destroy had chosen to heal him. Something shifted in him. The next day, he asked to speak with the FBI. He confessed everything. He turned state's evidence against the organization. He helped bring down the last remnants of Vincent's criminal empire. And it happened because Sarah had decided that being human meant more than being safe. 15 years after Sarah first walked into the Fortuna restaurant, the Newark organized crime community was essentially extinct. Not because of police action alone, not because of prosecution alone, but because someone had broken the silence, and once broken, that silence could never be repaired. Sarah was 58 years old. She lived in a small apartment in a small city. She worked at a hospital. She saw her children once a year, carefully, always aware of the danger. She had never married again. She had never fully let her guard down. But she was human. Carmen was now a senior FBI agent. She ran investigations into organized crime. She had arrested 32 major criminals. She had given testimony that had resulted in 47 convictions. She was following the path her mother had set. Marcus was an engineer. He designed buildings. He built things that lasted, things that mattered. He was doing something different from what his mother had done, but he was doing it with the same courage. The family had paid an enormous price, but they had paid it with their eyes open. They had chosen humanity. They had chosen truth. They had chosen to be more than invisible. On the night that Vincent Carbone died in prison at age 78, Sarah received a visitor. It was another man from Vincent's organization, an old man now, like Vincent had been, an old man who'd spent his life in darkness. "I wanted to meet you," the man said, "before I died. I wanted to see the woman who changed everything." "I didn't change everything," Sarah said. "Yes," the old man said, "you did. You showed us that the choice Vincent made, the choice to be invisible through fear instead of visible through courage, that it was a choice. You showed us we could choose differently." He stood to leave. "Vincent told me before he died," the old man said, "that you taught him what it meant to be human. He said you did it by looking him in the eye and saying no. He said he spent his last years in prison trying to become what you already were." "What's that?" Sarah asked. "Free," the old man said. He left. Sarah sat alone in her small apartment. Outside the window, the city hummed with its normal life. People buying groceries, children playing, businesses opening and closing, the beautiful, ordinary machinery of society. Sarah had sacrificed everything for that, for the chance to live in a normal world, for the chance to be invisible by choice instead of by circumstance, for the chance to be human. She picked up her phone and called Carmen. "Hi," Sarah said when her daughter answered. "Hi, Mom," Carmen said. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay," Sarah said. "I just wanted to hear your voice." "I know, Mom," Carmen said. "I love you." "I love you too," Sarah said. And in that moment, Sarah understood that she had won. Not against Vincent Carbone, not against his organization, but against the invisibility that had almost consumed her. She was still human. She would always be still human. And that was enough.
If you like this story, please leave a like and drop a comment. Also, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next interesting story. We wish everybody watching a good health and light in our path.